Aloha Hawaii, welcome back to the program. This is Polka Lainui. I am your host. We are produced by the Hawaiian National Broadcast Corporation. The opinions expressed in this program, not necessarily those of the staff and management of this radio station, KWAI, or the Hawaiian National Broadcast Corporation. Welcome to the program. Welcome back to the program. Today is the 13th day of October in the year 2012, and I hope these breaks give you some time to maybe get a cup of water, use the bathroom, change the baby's diaper, or whatever else you need to engage in so that you can continue listening to the program. We have been talking about this idea of chauvinism, and I want to thank the caller for giving me that word. Sometimes you just go searching around and can't remember it, and then it bothers you for a long period of time. And at times during a particular period of time, that word was joined with another word called, or with another word, and that other word was pig. And you would be called a chauvinistic pig for your blunders in social etiquette. And I had talked about once writing to a woman for something, and she refused to write back until many weeks later, and she didn't like the attribution of Ms. Connected to her name, and said that this was a fag word or something like that. And so you just don't know when it's acceptable and when it's not. Our last caller, sister, was talking about when she grew up, and even till today she has a difficult time with that embrace, when a man meets a woman or a woman meets another woman, and the handshake is what she's far more comfortable with, and I can understand that. And so I'm very cautious when I meet someone, and basically what I do is I wait for some cues from the other party. Otherwise it's left at a handshake or a nod or whatever it is. It's very interesting. Someone should do a video of the different methods of greeting and the uncertainty in that moment, especially across racially, across culturally, and how we meander through those interesting differences, and over a period of time, how time itself changes those things. I want to thank our other caller for instructing me on the effect of testosterone and how that contributes to male aggressiveness or assertiveness or protectiveness, and how that plays into one's nature and impact on nurture and nature, and the combination and what comes out of all of that. And so my question was, well, what about one's cognitive abilities, and can that cognition change someone, or that understanding, that analysis change someone's behavior, knowing that it's not appropriate or that there is another way of behaving, and just by that analysis make that change? Because and in fact I just completed videotaping a program talking about why we need to shift the deep culture from a die culture to an Ola culture. But if we have been trained and our nature and nurture is more in a DIE approach, then is it possible to change out of die and move into Ola? Or our cognition is not going to be effective or effective enough in making those changes? I like to believe that it will. And that's why that particular analysis and that advocacy for switching our institutions more into a Ola institution rather than a die institution. And what else did we talk about? Well, those are the essential things. And another point was that during that gestation period, that also contributes to the outcome of a child's life, not only at the time of birth, but the impact may have an effect throughout the child's life, especially among twins who go through the same gestational experience. And then, so what they carry into the future may be contributed by that gestational experience. Okay, well, thank you very much. If you have any comments or questions or viewpoints on this matter, give me a call at 524-1080, and we'll put you on the radio and see what you have to say about these matters. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the idea of drones. You know those airplanes that fly across and at times across a border and is used as a spy instrument, not only a spy instrument, but as an instrument of attack, attacking into the private spaces of another's borders. It may be across a person's yard by taking videotapes and or just pictures of a person's yard, perhaps even going into or up to someone's window and taking pictures into a window. Is that appropriate or inappropriate? Is that legal or illegal? And if we move it beyond the private spaces divided by someone's yard line, what about as one crosses over a national border between one state and another state? Is that legal or illegal? Or does that change the rules, or should it change the rules? What about if you go high enough that people do not see that drone or that spy instrument? Does that make it any better? And yet the photographs that are taken are just as accurate, or sometimes with those instruments it can be even more accurate than having to take it closer. And what about when you can take those photographs right through the clouds and still have photos that come out clear? Is that a violation of some kind of etiquette or some kind of international policy or law? Or should it be? And should countries engage in that kind of activity? And if you can't go high enough, then at what point do you have a spy airplane or a satellite to do your bidding for you? Is that any more justified? Or is spying itself the underlying issue, and that is what needs to be addressed? And whether or not in that spying you have the right to cross over another country's border. And not only for spying, but for using that spy instrument to now direct your military armaments. Or does that now compound the problem, makes it more problematic, more inappropriate, more illegal? All of those questions, I think, circulate around the question of drones. Now we come to a news article that appeared in this Friday's newspaper. Hezbollah brags it sent drone into Israel. The article comes out of the Associated Press, yesterday's Star advertised at page 812. The leader of Hezbollah claimed responsibility Thursday for launching an Iranian-made drone into Israeli airspace earlier this week, adding more tension to an already explosive Mid-East atmosphere. Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah warned that it would not be the last such operation by his Lebanese military group. Okay. Israeli warplanes shot down the unmanned plane, but the infiltration marked a rare breach of Israel's tightly guarded airspace. Hezbollah had been the leading suspect because of its arsenal of sophisticated Iranian weapons and a history of trying to deploy similar aircraft. With a formidable arsenal that rivals that of the Lebanese army, Hezbollah is already under pressure in Lebanon from rivals who accuse it of putting Lebanon at risk of getting sucked into a regional turmoil, etc., etc. I think the article or the discussion and the debate going on between Hezbollah Israel and the United States, of course, is pulled into that debate and discussion. The underlying issue is what is the appropriateness of the use of drones. And people would say, well, it's there you go, those Muslims are using these kinds of war tactics that they should not be using. What's the matter with them? And they are continually ramping up the war tension by using the drones. And then when you sit back and you start asking yourself, but you know, this idea of drones is somewhat a new idea in terms of warfare, isn't it? Only the last, last 10, 15, maybe 20 years, you hear about drones being flown, drones being unmanned crafts being flown to spy on another place, or being flown to not only spy but to attack into other countries. And somehow when the United States does it, it seems like it's all okay. It's the higher technology that we have an advantage to use, and it's cleaner, and it keeps our boys, usually boys, but not necessarily, away from danger, and so we can fire from the comfort and safety of an office space in Lackland, Mississippi, or where is that other place in Virginia? And we can kill people across the world. But it's very, is the word antiseptic the appropriate term? It's very clean. It's very distanced. So the killing of people can be done at a distance, so it appears to be okay, especially when in the hands of the Americans or of their partners, the Israelis, or of their other partners, the so-called Coalition of the Willing, NATO, and others. But when Hezbollah uses it, that's bad. And when Iran uses it, that's bad. And when Iran shoots down or pulls down a drone, in this case what had happened, not in this case, about 8-9 months ago, what they did was they pulled it down based on the electronic signals that they sent to the drone. They landed it, they were able to inspect it. The Israelis had to shoot it down. There was nothing to recover or inspect after that. So, is this an admission that the Iranians are more advanced in operating or in securing these spy planes? But even getting beyond that discussion, what is the appropriateness of entering into the sovereign territory of another country? I would say that in itself is a violation of international law. That is an act of war. That is inappropriate. And whoever engages in those activities, it's a violation, it's an act of war, and they should be penalized for it, and the international community should speak up against it, irrespective of who the party is. It's just that in this case, the United States, who has been a primary user of these tactics, the primary violators of the sovereign airspace of another country, has been the one most often using it, and the one who seems to be controlling the discussion and the debate, at least as it comes from the press or the media that we get. What do you think about this problem? And how far does a problem go back into? The idea of spying, the idea of satellite spies, the idea of the United States using, what was that, the V-2 rockets, the idea of, what was his name, Mr. Powers, who flew his plane across or over Russian or Soviet airspace, and as a result was shot down, and yet the Americans denied that it was its plane, until time passed and it was fully disclosed that indeed the Americans had been invading and violating Soviet airspace. Any opinions that you may have, give me a call. Our telephone number is 524-1080. We'll put you on the radio. I think we are being overwhelmed, overrun by the American-controlled media. that comes out without that kind of analysis and merely chit-chats over what is occurring. It's at the lowest level of discussion, at the lowest level of being informed. The American media just tosses out as if it's engaging in gossip without any real analysis. Okay, your opinions are invited. Our telephone number here is 524-1080. We'll put you on the radio and see what you have to say about that matter of drone flights, the use of drones, and what the Hezbollah has been doing and what the Israelis have complained about. And following that, and the Israelis, of course, is going to try to take some reprimands against this territory. Now I think it's in the territory of, was it Lebanon that Hezbollah has been operating out of? I believe so. And so the danger is, of course, more warfare going on. Okay. All right. Other comments that I wanted to make, and I don't know where that material is right now, but I came across a report that cited now I've lost my train of thought on it. Just 1 minute, un momento. Okay, I can't remember, I can't find it, so let's go to another article that comes to my attention, and that is a federal security agent with the U.S. State Department who was confronted with another patron at a McDonald's restaurant here in Waikiki moments before firing a fatal shot with his service pistol. It is now disclosed that he told the victim, "You're gonna get shot." The witness statements given to Honolulu Police Detective Theodore Coron are part of the transcript of November 16 grand jury proceedings that resulted in indictment of Christopher Dede on murder and firearm charges. Now this article is written by Nelson Daranciang, and he writes for the Star Advertiser. Dede's lawyer, Brooke Hart, publicly filed a portion of the transcript Tuesday as part of a motion before Circuit Judge Karen Ahn. The transcript shows that Dede and his friend Adam Gutowski had a confrontation with Colin Elderts, 23, of Kailua in the restaurant November 5. Now imagine this going on in Waikiki in a McDonald's restaurant. As the confrontation escalated, Dede told Elderts, "You're going to get shot. Something like this can get you shot," according to the transcript of Kuhn's testimony to the grand jury. Dede, who has been charged with second-degree murder, was in Honolulu to provide security for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Conference, which drew world leaders here. As part of his investigation, Coons interviewed Shane Medeiros, a friend of Elderts, who was with him at the restaurant. Coons says Medeiros told him that he and Elderts were ordering their food and joking around with the restaurant cashier when Elderts made a comment to Gutowski, who was offended. Medeiros told Coons that later, while Elderts was sitting down at a table, Dede and Gutowski approached Elderts and had a discussion with him that turned into an argument and then a fight between Dede and Elderts. When Dede told Elderts, "You're going to get shot," Elderts responded, "What, you're going to shoot me?" Dede then said, "Yeah, you're going to get shot." according to the transcript. Medeiros recalled that Collins stood up and Didi gave him a thrust kick to Collins. The transcript also includes testimony from another HPD detective identifying Didi, Elderts, Gutowski, and Medeiros in the restaurant surveillance video, and other witnesses, including restaurant employees and patrons. Hart has said that Didi was performing his duties as a federal law enforcement officer by protecting his life and the lives of others. In other court filings, Hart says Didi shot Eldert only after Eldert harassed another restaurant patron with racial slurs, assaulted Didi, and tried to grab the agent's gun. Hart is attempting to have the indictment dismissed and to make public the restaurant video. Well, that's some very interesting disclosures that we can now, having gotten more information, sort of take it apart or piece it apart. What you have is Christopher Didi going to a restaurant, I think it was at about 3 o'clock in the morning, with his friend Gutowski, and after hearing some remarks by Collins, didn't appreciate the remarks. It was Gutowski who took offense to the remarks. And then after after Collins sits with his friend Medeiros at one of the tables having ordered, then Didi walks up to Collins, and the argument starts where Didi warns Collins that he can get shot for saying something like that, and then they get into a scuffle or a fight. It seems to me that Christopher Didi, based on what his own attorney presents in open court, was the aggressor, in that, first of all, he took his gun. Secondly, he went up to Collins, who had made a remark that set off Gutowski, the friend of Didi, not Didi, but Gutowski. And so it is Didi who becomes the aggressor, goes up to where Medeiros and Collins are sitting, because now it's they have separated, and so he continues with this aggressiveness, goes up to Collins, and then get into an argument, says he can be shot, raises the issue of anyone being shot, and then as Collins gets up, stands up, Didi kicks Collins, and then eventually shoots Collins. Seems to me like some premeditation there, especially when you say you can get shot. It means that you are thinking about it, you know what can happen, you know you have a gun, and then you kick the guy, and then you shoot the guy. Brooke, I think you're a little bit, what is that, misled or off the track? It seems like with the documents, if the reporter is reporting accurately and fully, it would be the other way around. You would not want to disclose this kind of materials to the general public and to people who will call up radio talk shows and start commenting on the sequence of events.
Kaulana na pua o Hawaii, Pupa ama hope o ka aina, Iki mai ka elele o ka loko ino, Pala pala anunu me ka pata. Mane mai Hawaii moku o ke ave, Koku ana honoa o Pilani, Ka
si vila